Guatemala, electoral authorities announced that polls closed in Sunday's general elections, an election day marked by irregularities. In Greece, Conservative leader Kyriakos Mitsotakis won the national elections with a clear majority, allowing his party to govern alone. And in Sierra Leone, vote counting continues on Sunday following fiercely fought elections that were mostly calm despite significant delays in some areas. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Guatemala, the general elections move forward amidst reports of irregularities in different regions. After casting her vote in the morning hours, center-left candidate Sandra Torres denounced that the ruling party was buying votes with the handing out of food. Among other irregularities, it has been denounced that voters were being harassed, as well as being intimidated by the police with the use of tear gas against the population. In this regard, the Supreme Electoral Tribunal announced that due to the violence in the town of San Jose del Golfo, the elections in that municipality were suspended.
The board of the Department of Guatemala decides and informs us that with the same objective of protecting the life and physical integrity of the people, it is better to suspend elections in that place. They also gave a press conference about it, and indeed, in San Jose del Golfo, Guatemala, there are no elections today. There were 4 electoral precincts and a total of 24 polling stations. That is what was suspended for this time. It will be on to the second round when the elections will take place there.
Likewise, the magistrate of the Supreme Electoral Court, Gabriel Aguilera, condemned the incidents that occurred in San Jose del Golfo.
Regarding the issue of San Jose del Golfo, first of all, as the President said, we condemn these events. Remember that the members of the voting and municipal electoral boards are citizens, so we call on all our citizens to respect their Guatemalan brothers and sisters who are guarding their vote, and that we do not resort to these acts.
In this context, voters and members of the Guatemalan police and military clashed in San Jose del Golfo amid allegations the mayor unlawfully brought people from other districts to vote for President Alejandro Yamatei's ruling party. We must remember that the electoral authorities announced the cancellation of the election day in the municipality after the violent incidents. There were also press reports of disturbances in San Martin Zapotitlan, Rataleo department due to the alleged movement of voters.
Pays 1,000 quetzales per vote. No, we don't want any more corruption. We are tired of it.
The president of the municipal electoral body didn't have the guts to tell the election officials that he was going to bring people from other places. Why? So those 92 who were going to come would vote for the ruling party.
On the other hand, presidential candidate Sandra Torres reiterated her complaints about the irregularities registered during the electoral event.
We continue to see a very contaminated electoral process, with a little control, with little presence of the authorities. And our question is, well, where's the Ministry of the Interior? Where's the presence of the authorities, of the officials, who are responsible for this process?
With a march and rally in front of the White House, a wave of solidarity with Cuba that has been expressed in more than 30 cities in the United States and other parts of the world concluded on Sunday. Take Cuba off the list of state sponsors of terror is the name of the campaign that animates this new wave of questioning of the policies of the current administration of Democrat Joe Biden towards the Caribbean island. Activist and Professor Carlos Lasso, who traveled from Seattle, emphasized that representatives of more than 100 solidarity organizations shouted out loud so that President Joe Biden would listen well that Cuba be taken off the list of terrorist countries, that the blockade be lifted, and bridges of love be built.
We are here today House to denounce a crime. This crime has been committed for more than 60 years. This genocide has been inflicted by the United States government against the people of Cuba. Right now, because this genocide, people in Cuba are suffering. Families lack food and medication. Right now, children are denied and dying in Cuba because the U.S. blockade. To make things worse, almost 3 years ago, the Trump administration added Cuba in the list of countries who support terrorism. The addition of Cuba to this list is one of the most evil acts that the United States have done.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. On Sunday, Conservative leader Kyriakos Mitsotakis won Greece's national elections with a clear majority, clinching a second term with what he called a strong mandate that would allow his party to govern alone. Mitsotakis' New Democracy Party obtained over 40% of the vote, well ahead of the leftist Syriza party led by former Premier Alexis Tsipras, which came in under 18%. According to over 90% of the ballot counted, the margin is the widest for the Conservatives in almost 50 years. The re-elected leader said the people gave them a safe majority and major reforms will proceed rapidly, adding that he had ambitious targets for a new term that could transform the nation. Opposition leader Alexis Tsipras recognized the election results and described them as negative for society and for democracy.
We have suffered a serious electoral defeat. However, I believe that the electoral result is mainly negative for society and for democracy. The election of 3 far-right parties to parliament, one of which has serious fascist connections, in combination with the majority of Mr. Mitsotakis, it's a negative development.
The Russian city of Rostov-on-Don, scene of the attempted armed mutiny by members of the Wagner Group, is calm after all troops left the territory, hours after an agreement reached with the group's leader through the mediation of Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Russian President Vladimir Putin issued a decree to normalize the country's traffic routes. On the other hand, the situation in the center of Rostov-on-Don had already come back to normal by Saturday midnight, and traffic on Budenovsky Avenue was fully restored. The Russian emergency services also confirmed that the fire at the oil depot in Voronezh was completely extinguished. For the report, Rostov-on-Don residents expressed their relief that the situation had resolved itself after hours of tension strained the town.
I personally think that it's better to settle things on the battlefield, not to come to the southern city, a quiet, peaceful town, to settle things with tanks. I think this is not right. They came in with guns. It could have been so much worse.
Yesterday, when I found out the news, I was, of course, very upset. I spent the whole day at home. I did not go out because they said that it was better not to go out. I had been following the news all day and I was really worried, so I'm glad everything turned out well.
In the United Kingdom, more than 10,000 citizens signed a petition calling on the government to hold a referendum to cease support for Ukraine. The request states that the government of London intervene in the conflict in Ukraine without a mandate from its citizens. In this order, the text states that the population is suffering from the financial consequences of the conflict, such as the increase in energy prices, the cost of living, and cuts in public services. The British government is forced to respond to an initiative that is supported by more than 10,000 people. The petition must be debated in Parliament if it reaches 100,000 signatures. A new attack by Ukrainian troops caused one death and several wounded in the Russian region of Donetsk. The mayor of the city reported the explosion killed an 18-year-old man and wounded other 5 citizens in a crowded area close to a shopping mall and public offices. The Joint Center for Control and Coordination of the Ceasefire and Stabilization of the Demarcation Line stated the Ukrainian forces attacked the Kievsky district from a light multiple missile launcher system mounted on a HIMARS-type military truck. Russia reported it had repelled new offensives by Ukrainian forces in 4 areas on the front line.
24 hours, Ukraine's armed forces have continued to attempt offensive actions in the Donetsk, Krasny Liman, Yuzhno Donetsk, and Zaporizhia directions. In the Donetsk direction, in the area of the city of Artemovsk, with competent and courageous actions, the defending units of southern groups of forces repelled 10 enemy attacks in a day.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. On Sunday, vote tallying was underway in Sierra Leone, the Electoral Commission said, following fiercely fought elections that were mostly calm, despite significant delays in some areas. Tallying would take place in the capital Freetown, Bo, Kenema, Makeni, and Port Loko, the Commission said. On Saturday, Sierra Leoneans voted in presidential and parliamentary and local elections, with many polling stations opening late in the capital. After polling stations began to close, the Electoral Commission said polling staff had been attacked by members of the public in certain area as they attempted to move materials. Senior members of the main opposition, All People's Congress Party, also alleged violence had taken place near several polling centers in Freetown on Saturday evening. The results are expected within about 48 hours of the vote.
If not the best, but it's one of the best election day in Sierra Leone over the period. And that is in line with the promise we made to this country when I assumed office, that I want to supervise an election where our children will be going to school and ordinary people will be going about their normal businesses. Voting took place yesterday in all polling stations nationwide. In some polling stations where polls did not open on time, voting continued beyond 5 p.m., ensuring that all those in queue voted.
Damascus and Moscow's air forces cooperate in coordinated strikes against terrorist positions in northeastern Syria. According to local media, in the last hours, Russian and Syrian aviation carried out more than 30 raids against terrorist strongholds in Idlib province, about 350 kilometers northwest of the capital. The sources indicate that aviation targeted positions of the radicals in the vicinity of the cities of Yasser al-Shugur and Ariha. The information details the destruction of weapon and ammunition depots, as well as a command center of the Junta for the Liberation of the Levant, registered on the international terrorism list. On Sunday, clashes continued between the Sudanese Army and the Rapid Support Forces. The RSF had announced the seizure of their reserve police headquarters, while the Sudanese Army bombed the RSF concentrations nearby. The latter announced that its forces responded to the attack and inflicted heavy losses on the RSF. In addition, the bombing RSF concentrations east of Al-Manshijam Bridge, east of Khartoum, and in Al-Faya to the north, and destroying a number of combat vehicles. The Sudanese Army similarly bombed RSF concentrations south of Omdurman and west of the capital, announced the shooting down of 2 army planes, and reported that the RSF is suffering from an acute shortage of food, arms, and ammunition due to the blockade. On Saturday, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi began a 2-day state visit to Egypt. It's the first time it happens since 1997, and it comes to highlights growing bilateral ties. According to local media, Modi and his Egyptian counterpart Mustafa Madbouli held talks on strengthening bilateral relations and agendas in the presence of senior government officials from both countries. Modi is scheduled to hold talks with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday, during which the two countries would sign a set of mutually beneficial memorandums. Also on Sunday, Modi visits the historic Mosque Al-Hakim in Islamic Cairo, recently renovated with the help of the India-based Dawoodi Bohra community. In Chile, heavy rains affecting the central zone have left at least 2 people dead and 3 missing. According to President Gabriel Boric, updated numbers now speak of about 419 people, while 1,002 remain unprotected in the region of Valparaiso. Among the missing, there is a firefighter who was helping with rescue works in an area affected by the floods. On Saturday night, Boric visited affected families in Talagante and spoke about the current delicate situation in 4 regions south of the capital. The Minister of the Interior, Carolina Toja, announced a decree of emergency state covering all the regions from Valparaiso to Biobío due to the floods and river overflowings. The measure will allow authorities to quickly mobilize special resources destined to repair infrastructural and housing damages. In Peru, the National Service of Meteorology and Hydrology issued an orange alert for low temperatures registered in 12 departments of the Southern Highlands region. According to the weather forecast, temperatures are expected around -6 degrees Celsius in the Central Highlands and values below -16 degrees Celsius in localities at 4,000 meters above sea level in the Southern Highlands. In addition, gusts of winds are expected with speeds close to 40 kilometers per hour, low cloudiness, and increased daytime temperatures. In view of the warning, the National Institute of Civil Defense recommended taking the necessary measures to take care of health, such as avoiding exposure to sudden changes in temperature, as well as covering the head, face, and mouth to prevent cold air from entering the lungs. On Sunday, Uruguayan authorities reported a decrease in the freshwater reservoir of the San Severino Dam that supplies the city. In the midst of the water emergency established due to the persistent drought, the San Severino Dam stores only 2,179,283 cubic meters of water out of a capacity of 70 million. The lack of rainfall causes the flow to continue decreasing. According to a report issued on Friday, it was at 2,401,596 million cubic meters, and on Thursday at 2,616,725 million cubic meters, all historical milestones downward. In view of the need for water resources, the Ministry of Public Health approved increasing the sodium values of the vital liquid by 420 milligrams per liter. The health agency warned that although it is a drinkable water, it is not potable water, so it recommended pregnant women and people with chronic diseases to buy bottled water instead. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.